the fake news. They tell you fake news. It's fake news. 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 Fake news.
With technology ever expanding, retrieving information is more accessible than ever. But how much of the information that we see and hear on TV, radio, and internet keeps us a well-informed nation? This is where freedom of the press comes into play. It is a crucial aspect in our democracy. Anthony Lewis stated that freedom to speak and write as you wish is the inescapable necessity of democracy. This is also how we connect to the rest of the world and share our information. We use it every day, whether through Facebook, Instagram, news outlets on TV, or on the radio, to name a few. Because of these reasons, we must preserve the freedom of the press. First, let's take a quick look back on where it all started. Freedom of the press started in England. According to LiveScience.com's article titled Freedom of the Press by Catherine Gammon stated that the history of the freedom goes back to the birth of mass media. As soon as the printing press was invented, officials created ways to censor it. In the United States, a court case started conversation of press freedom. Lewis described Zenger's case stating, he was a New York printer. He printed, though he had nothing to do with the content, a newspaper, the New York Weekly Journal, that attacked the royal governor of New York, William Cosby. Cosby had Zenger persecuted for seditious libel. At his trial in 1735, Zenger's lawyer, Andrew Hamilton of Philadelphia, argued that the criticisms of Governor Cosby in the newspaper were accurate. That was irrelevant under seditious libel law, as Hamilton knew. Truth was not a defense. The judge, a Cosby appointee, so ruled. But Hamilton appealed to the jurors to ignore the judge's ruling, making up their own minds, and free Zenger if they found the newspaper's criticisms of Cosby to be true. The jury found Zenger not guilty, an extraordinary decision that could not formally change the law, but that reverberated around the colonies and discouraged further persecutions of seditious libel. This case is known as the foundation of freedom of the press in the United States, and the First Amendment, which was later adopted in 1791. Now let's put a definition to it. According to Study.com's article, What is Freedom of the Press? Definition, History, and Examples by Jessica Schubert states that the definition of freedom of the press is the right to circulate opinions in print without censorship by the government. In the Constitution, the First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Both definitions might be a little outdated by now. I will be explaining so later on. It seems that we usually hear violations of press freedom happening around the world, and rarely happening here in the United States, but it does happen. In an article written by Dave Roos, stated that in 2005, New York Times reported Judith Miller served 85 days in jail for contempt of court when she refused to name the source who leaked the identity of undercover CIA agent Valerie Plame. The following year, 2 reporters for the San Francisco Chronicle also served jail time for refusing to name the source who leaked closed grand jury testimonies from the Barry Bonds pre-jury case. Although both times the journalists refused to give up their sources, under the First Amendment they have the right to be anonymous. Then, according to Anthony Alvarado in his book DIY Resistance, 36 Ways to Fight Back, on February 14, 2017, in a private conversation, Trump urged James Comey, the FBI director, to throw journalists in jail. As of now, this has not happened, but for Trump to say this is extremely scary, especially for journalists. This shows that if he could do it, he would. There is another way that press freedom is violated. It's different in a way that the government itself is not restricting reporters and journalists, but rather multinational conglomerates who are limiting what is being investigated and shared. An article titled Watchdog or Lapdog, Media Freedom, Regime Type, and Government Respect for Human Rights by Jennifer Whitten Woodring, published in International Studies Quarterly, stated that with ownership becoming increasingly concentrated and media conglomerates becoming vertically integrated, many news critics have raised concerns that the push to make news more profitable will result in poor news coverage that leaves many voices unheard. While few have argued that media owners would act as censors, there are legitimate concerns that journalists might engage in self-censorship when selecting stories in order to please their editors and publishers and avoid problems. Indeed, according to a survey of journalists, self-censorship is prevalent in newsrooms. Another concerning regarding ownership is that as news media come increasingly under the ownership of multinational conglomerates, the focus will be more on profit making and less on high quality journalism. This is extremely prevalent and does not benefit our nation, rather it does benefit big companies. A great example of this would be Roberta Baskin. She was a CBS reporter. She traveled to Vietnam to investigate sweatshops and the violence in a Nike factory. She found horrendous information. When the story aired for the first time, it made a huge impact. Nike stocks went down and people were organizing to boycott and picket Nike towns. The next July, it was scheduled to re-air, but it was later taken down by the president of CBS, Andrew Hayward, because CBS News and Nike had just agreed to a deal for the upcoming Winter Olympics Nagano. Then when the Olympics aired, all of her colleagues were wearing a swoosh and the CBS logo. She was later demoted because she was a breach of professional etiquette. I don't know about you, but this is appalling. This type of restriction is not mentioned in either the definition or the First Amendment. Both only mention freedom of the press being restricted by the government. I believe this should be added, especially how multinational conglomerates usually have ties with politicians. These examples are not only violations of the First Amendment, but also a violation of the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. According to the article titled Promoting the People's Surrogate, the Case for Press Freedom as a Distinct Human Right, written by Wibke Lamer, published in the Journal of Human Rights, stated that press freedom falls under Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has a right to freedom of opinion and express. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. When freedom of the press is violated, it may not only violate Article 19, but it can lead to other violations, like Articles 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 11. These state that we are all born free and equal, cannot be discriminated, have the right to life, cannot be enslaved, cannot be tortured, have rights no matter where you go, we're all equal before the law. Your human rights are protected by law, cannot be detained unfairly, have the right to trial, and we're always innocent until These violations beyond Article 19 are more common in other countries. For example, one that caused lots of outrage around the world, but since faded, is Jamal Khashoggi. He was a Saudi Arabian who was an author and columnist for the Washington Post and general manager and editor-in-chief of Al Arab News Channel, who was assassinated by the Saudi government in Istanbul at the Saudi Arabian consulate because he openly expressed his criticism against the Saudi regime. There are many others, like in this clip.
In the course of my work in 2014, when 276 girls were stolen, or rather kidnapped, by the Boko Haram group, a policeman fought with me and broke my arm and broke my equipment just because I was trying to report what is really happening.
Nur Hadi melaporkan dari makam jurnalis Indonesia Fuad Muhammad Safrudin atau yang lebih kita kenal sebagai Udin. Masyarakat percaya bahwa Udin dibunuh karena laporan-laporan investigasinya terkait kasus korupsi. Tragedi ini mengingatkan kita bahwa rejim yang korup adalah musuh bagi kebebasan pers.
Bu video bloger Mehman Hüseynovdur. O nazirlərin dəbdəbəli imarətləri barədə videolar yaydıqdan sonra 2 il həbsə məhkum edildi. Amerikanın səsi də daxil olmaqla azad mətbuatın onun problemlərini işıqlandırması, diqqəti problemlərə cəlb etməsi və beynəlxalq təzyiqlər nəticəsində Mehman azadlığa qovuşdu.
This is Sobek Junction, where I was wounded about a year and a half ago on October 14, 2017. I lost my friend and colleague Arinul Sayyid Ahmed here. I love my profession, despite the killings, attacks, threats, and other pressures are coming from those who don't like to be told.
Sin chantaje, asedio, espionaje y persecución, se garantiza una verdadera libertad de prensa.
The government is aiming to isolate the Russian sector of the internet. Religious persecution, violence against LGBT community, domestic violence that is decriminalized. Many stories remain untold.
By performing the watchdog role, free press will show the public what is wrong and what is right in the society.
We don't want Ukrainians to be brainwashed and manipulated by foreign propaganda. Our citizens deserve to have reliable, truthful, and balanced information.
For the past 24 months, we journalists here has experienced harassment and being banned from the public events. When we journalists cannot exercise our press freedom, Cambodian citizens are deprived of the truth.
I do sincerely think we need press freedom.
Valoro la libertad de prensa porque contribuye a la democracia, el Estado de Derecho y la institucionalidad.
That is what press freedom means to me.
Bütün azadlıqlar mətbuat azadlığından başlayır. Ona görə də Azərbaycanda azad mətbuat şərtdir.
Karena itulah pers yang bebas penting di Indonesia.
That is why a free press matters in Tanzania,
in Ukraine,
In Pakistan,
In Ghana, in Kosovo,
in Russia,
in Nigeria,
In Cambodia,
here, there, and everywhere.
In the clip, they mentioned a watchdog role. Let me explain what this is. For us to be well informed, we must be provided with information that has been collected, investigated, and studied. This is watchdog journalism. For example, a watchdog journalist will go out and investigate a topic he or she is collecting. The journalist will not only ask questions that are in favor of the topic, but also ask questions challenging the topic. On the other hand, lapdog journalism is when one just watches what is going on around him or her, like collecting information on a celebrity. Unfortunately, lapdog journalism is what is more prevalent mostly due to funding. Watchdog journalism costs a lot more because they may need more security if they are going to dangerous areas, need travel fare, housing, and food. Despite costs, we need journalists who challenge and collect all the necessary information for us, so we are able to make the most informed decisions. But how can we support press freedom and journalists? There are a few ways we can. Anthony Alvarado, who's the author of DIY Resistance, 36 Ways to Fight Back, stated that the most dangerous thing to a fortress of lies is an army of people who know the facts. We need smart, savvy, well-informed, media-literate citizens. Support journalism. An easy way to do so is to buy a newspaper. But don't stop there. I encourage you to go deeper. There are a lot of great sources of news that go beyond the basic media diet of the front page. He then lists different places you can diversify your news outlets, like reading the New York Times, the Washington Post, Mother Jones, The Nation, listening to Pod Save America, watching The Rachel Maddow Show on TV, and watching any of the many late-night comedy shows, like The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. These are just a few to name. Not only does this support many different journalists, but also it gives you different points of view of the same topic. Another way to support this is by not paying attention to celebrity news shows. These shows have become popular due to the increase of viewers, but if we boycott these, they will not have enough viewers to continue on. Yes, protecting freedom of the press seems like an impossible task for just one person, especially when it is in our Constitution. But with little steps, like boycotting celebrity news shows and encouraging others to do so, we will be able to get the important information that we will need.